Kakadosh Boker Tov. We're continuing with the halachot of the Pirkei Avot. This is Perek Daled, Mishnah Bet, when it's written, Everatz lemitzvah kala. One of the cases where we see that a person should be running to do a mitzvah is actually brought down in the Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Sadi Sif Yud Bet, where Maran says it's a mitzvah larutz kesholech lebet Haknesset. There's a mitzvah to run when you're running towards the Bet Haknesset. And also the same halacha would apply to any mitzvah, and even on Shabbat, that usually on Shabbat you're not allowed to be posea psiya gasa, which means you're not allowed to take big steps, that every single step is more than an amma. He says here you're allowed to, and the Mishnah Berurah says there in Sivkatan Mem Aleph that you have to actually run ad petach Bet Haknesset. But the Bet Haknesset itself, you're not allowed to run. Meaning inside the synagogue itself, you're not allowed to run in the Bet Haknesset because you have to go be'emah. That was one of the things that David HaMelech was taught by Achitofel, right? That bevet Elohim na'alech beragesh, which means that a person has to be careful how they walk inside of a Bet Haknesset. So there, it's true. Inside the Bet Haknesset in itself, you have to walk with fear, and you're not supposed to run. However, until the Bet Haknesset, you're supposed to go running. So nowadays, there's a whole question: what about the person that comes by car? Is he mekayem this mitzvah? Not mekayem this mitzvah? They said that listen, at the end of the day, if there's no tircha gufanit, which means that there's no actually physical exertion of the body, and we do not see anything that a person is actually doing to go to the Bet Haknesset. So therefore, how are you going to come and you're going to be mekayem it? So therefore, it could be that he says that maybe what you should do is, instead of parking right beside the Bet Haknesset, park a little bit further away, and by parking a little bit further away, now you're running to the Bet Haknesset. There, that's going to be one way of showing it. It's brought down, he says that you could look in the Shut B'Tzelach Chochmah and you could see it over there. The Shut Torah Lishma, the Ben Ish Chai comes and he says, what about you have an Ashir Nichbad? Right, you have a very wealthy person and he lives far away from the Bet Haknesset. It's a half an hour away. So he says, but it doesn't matter exactly how he's not going to be a tircha, it's a hard burden for coming. Should he come actually going with his feet, meaning he's going to be walking, or should he come riding on, whether it's going to be a horse, right, or a chariot? So he comes and he says, Im yachol le'akpid lalechet davka b'raglav. It's much better to come and to be strict than you come walking, which means the majority of the people, they think, listen, if I had a synagogue right beside me, why would I go somewhere far away? If I've got right now a bank, right beside my house, so I'm going to go to another bank, the exact same bank, far away. I might as well go to the one right beside my house. Here he's saying the exact opposite. He says, Schar psiyot urak b'ma'alech beraglav, and he brings down this, al pia niglav, al pia nistar, which means whether it's al pia Kabbalah or whether it's al pia halacha, there's a special reward for every single step that you take. And that's why if you remember with Rabbi Yochanan and others as well, they would go to a Bet Haknesset, which is even further away. Because here it's not the fact that, listen, it's for convenience that the closest that I have to my house, I'm going to have. The opposite. The fact that you're going far away, you're showing HaKadosh Baruch Hu every single step that I'm taking is worth it in order to do a mitzvah. And therefore I want to go to a place which is even further away in order that I get much more mitzvah, because every single step is going to be considered a mitzvah. The last thing is going to be based upon a Mishnah Berurah, which the Mishnah Berurah says, okay, fine, the halacha states that you have to travel up to Daled Mil. Right, you have to travel up to 4 mil, which is around almost 4 kilometers, in order to get a minyan. What about nowadays? Is it in time or is it in distance? What does that mean? Every mil, in order to walk a kilometer, we're not talking about running, it was around 18 minutes. Right, there's actually a machloket between the poskim. We know Shulchan Aruch goes, it's 18 minutes for a mil. And that's why, for example, chametz on Pesach, in order for matzah to be considered chametz, we go like the Shulchan Aruch, that it's 18 minutes. Right? What does that mean? 18 minutes from the beginning, when the dough is going to come into contact, right, with water, when the flour comes into contact with water. Now we have 18 minutes. Once it becomes 18 minutes, it could become chametz. So now what happens? Here, if it says that you have to travel up to Daled Mil, which means you're going to travel up to 4 mil to get a minyan. So a mil is a machloket between the Chazon Ish and the Reb Chaim Naya. Reb Chaim Naya says it's 950 meters, which is just below a kilometer, and the Chazon Ish is 1.052, which is just above a kilometer. So we're talking about, right, just think of it this way. The mil is like almost like but not a mile, it's a kilometer, right? In Eretz Israel, Canada, other places, we always use kilometers. We're not using the mil, the miles. So if you're going to talk about 4 kilometers is going to be for going from minyan, you could say, listen, right now I'm traveling 4 kilometers, very simple. It could take me 5 minutes. It could take me 10 minutes in a car, and that's it. Or are you going the distance in the way that it is by the formula, the way that it walks? So the way that the Mishabra brings down is, and he brings this down in the Biur Halacha and other places as well, that it's going to be the distance in time, which means that a person would be obligated to travel up to 72 minutes in order to find a minyan. Now here we're not talking about here where a person has to say Kaddish and they're a chiyuv and they have to do this and they're doing this for kibud avayim and other things, they're respecting their parents. We're talking about, forget about that. We're talking about a person has a minyan within a vicinity of 72 minutes. He will be obligated to travel 72 minutes in order to pray tefillah betzibur, so, right, in order to pray with a minyan. So imagine what it is in a synagogue. So imagine what it is, the concept of how powerful it is tefillah betzibur, that we have to just internalize, and that every single action that we do towards going to the Bet Haknesset is actually going to be a mitzvah. Somebody once told me, you know what, I'm going to use a crocknet, right? I'm going to use the scooter. So he comes and he says, 1 second, that's the whole question. Do you actually get schar psiot? There's no difference between the scooter and it's going to be, for example, the car. Obviously, here we're saying that it's better if a person he gets schar psiot by walking, than it is when he's going by a car. So imagine that. So therefore, obviously, it's very, very important that every single action that a person does, he's actually doing a mitzvah. So that's very, very important. Bezrat Hashem.